And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hello out there, I am Meteorologist Carrie Haisley, the Chief of the National Weather Service Alaska Region Emergency Services and Multimedia Branch. I'm here with the Marine segment for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. Now before I dive in, there are a few things I wanted to go over first. The first is the Alaska Weather Information Line. That number is here on your screen, 1-855-937-4977. That takes you to a menu system. You can select from there the area for which you are seeking a forecast. It's great for those low bandwidth situations. You can find us on the web anytime, weather.gov/Alaska, and as always, you can reach out to us through email. My address is carrie.haisley@noaa.gov. So now before I get deep into the weather, let's take a look first at the sea ice edge. This would be the analysis that was actually completed yesterday on Tuesday. And take a look, we haven't seen a lot of change in the last few days. The main ice edge is still kind of well offshore here, although we do have some areas in the marginal ice zone where there still is a little bit in the neighborhood of less than 80% concentration, but still a little bit close to the shore here. We are going to look over the next couple of days for this to continue to slowly retreat to the north. We're still a good ways off from where we should hit that ice minimum that usually happens in September. So the general trend for at least the next about 6 weeks will continue to be to see ice lift away from the coast little by little. Now, as far as the weather pattern goes, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about before we dive in here, because that's really what's going to be driving the weather for the next couple of days in the marine world. The first is this area of low pressure that you see kind of out here in the Gulf, and then a frontal boundary that's sort of weakening as it pushes towards the southeast panhandle there. So that system on the backside, we have some pretty good flow kind of wrapping into it, and so we'll talk through what that means over the coming days for the winds and waves. The other is this area out here to the west. We see kind of just broad westerly flow working its way into mainland Alaska. These are higher clouds right in here that are a little bit brighter on the screen, and then some lower just kind of pop-up clouds up over a lot of mainland. So as far as the pattern into Thursday, this area of low pressure is going to linger out over the panhandle, and then we're going to have this area of low pressure out here along the west coast, which keeps that kind of broad onshore flow and therefore kind of a westerly flow across a lot of the Bering. And then this system right here is going to continue to weaken as we go through the day on Thursday. And then it gets replaced on Friday with the system from the west kind of moves in and replaces the system out in the Gulf. Friday doesn't look like that pretty of a day for a lot of the places, mainland and in the marine world. So this is going to be kind of the next big weather maker as it kind of moves across our mainland Alaska in the coming days. So let's take a look first at our marine conditions. We're going to start with Thursday down over southeast, and then we'll take a look at just the interior channels where we see winds generally out of the south, 2 to 3 feet on those seas. Offshore, 10 to 15 knots for the wind. Mostly onshore for at least the southern part of the panhandle, a bit of a different direction up here up towards Yakutat where you see them out of the east, 4 to 6 feet for offshore. We get into Friday, we see the winds actually pick up a little bit offshore when we have that other system work its way in closer to this area. 20 knots, seas up to about 6 feet in most of that area. Not a lot of change for the interior channels though. 10 knots, 2 feet seems to be the prevailing there. Into Thursday, now taking a look at south central Alaska, starting with Prince William Sound. Thursday, generally winds out of the northwest, so offshore flow should be a pretty nice day in that area. It depends on where you're at. Winds light and variable as you get kind of further towards Cordova. Otherwise, when you get back towards Kennedy Entrance here, we're looking at about 35 knots, seas 7 to 9 feet on Thursday. We see some of that weaken in the day on Friday. We see at least the winds come down 25 knots, seas 5 feet, and then we keep some stronger winds on the backside of that system out on the coast there near Cordova, Prince William Sound, 25 knots and about 5 or 6 foot seas. Now into the day on Thursday, we're looking now at the Alaska Peninsula. Most of the wind here is going to be with a westerly component. We see kind of a wind out of the southwest along the Bering side here, more of a westerly component out here as well on the Pacific side. 20 knots, 4 foot seas as kind of your prevailing. The further into the Gulf you go, the stronger the wind and the seas are going to be. Things lessen a bit on Friday for most places, although back here behind Kodiak Island, we do see some of the northwesterly flow picking up a bit. 30 knots, 6 foot seas there, everything else a little bit lighter for this region. Now out into the Aleutians we go on Thursday. So we kind of have this flow that's working its way generally out of the west. So 15 knots, Generally, the average here, we see some up to about 20 knots, but pretty low seas, 2 to 3 feet. And then into the day on Friday, way out here in the far western Aleutians near Shimia, get back on the screen there, we do see some stronger winds and waves up to about 30 knots, otherwise fairly light. And we're on the backside of that emerging complex of low pressure there, 15 knots, 3 feet just off of Nikolsky. And then we'll take a last look at the west coast. This is our last area here. Onshore flow up to about 20 knots for the day on Thursday with winds with seas 4 to 5 feet. And then on the day, I cannot do this without stumbling. Thank you for sticking with me. I promise we're going to get through this. This is the last one. On the day on Friday, we have kind of a northwesterly flow onshore over southwest Alaska, up to about 15 knots, seas in the range of 3 to 6 feet. Going to be a bit higher as you get further offshore. Thank you for joining me.